of my younger viewers may not be aware of this, but it really hasn't been a very long time that there's been a country of Pakistan. It was, as many people know, around 1946-47 timeframe, something that was split off from the country of India, a place where the Muslims, or where a majority of the Muslims in India, I don't know if it was a majority to be honest, went to live. And the Hindus, Sikhs, and others, most of them, not all of them, most of the Hindus ended up staying in India. So I guess you're probably asking what that has to do with this particular video in which I'm talking about the idea of secession. Hello, welcome to the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Sunday, December the 13th of 2020, and I welcome everybody aboard who's coming on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. I wanted to make a special mention of the fact that I actually hit 150 followers. I'm a little over 150 followers on Rumble, and I really appreciate it. I want you to know I really appreciate the fact that I have the followers that I do on Rumble. I know it's not a big number, and it's not a big deal to a lot of people. To me, it's a big deal. And I'm also over 3,000 video views on Rumble as well. So that's overall, mind you, not on any particular video. But again, it may not be a big deal to a lot of people. There are a lot of people who would look at that and yawn. To me, it's a big deal because, of course, there's, the only way you get where you want to go is to travel the road. Okay, so I wanted to talk about a number of things and sort of explain how I felt about the idea of secession. And one thing that I wanted to do is talk about an article that I found on a site called theculturetrip.com. I'm going to put up a slide to show you a part of the article in which it talks about the various things that happened in India and in Pakistan as a result of the fact that lines were drawn and the two countries were created out of whole cloth, as it were, out of a single country. And it talks about unprecedented levels of violence, rioting, loss of property, rape, etc., and the displacement of, I think it says roughly 16 million people. Again, if you're looking at me on either Rumble or on YouTube, you should be able to look at that slide, and it will help you to see what I'm talking about. Obviously, the United States is not Pakistan. And the result is, if we decided to have a portion or some portions of the United States secede, that is a function of, it would probably be a function of a great deal less discord. It would still be discordant. It would still be horribly problematic, but it would probably be greatly less discordant. Now, I wanted to do something here. Again, I had a couple of visual aids, if you will, that I'm including on my video today. And one of them is a visual aid from 270 to Win. I'm putting it up. And it is an electoral college map by state. Now, I want you to notice a couple of things about this map. First of all, the majority of the map is red, pretty obviously. But the problem is you've got Minnesota, Illinois, Virginia, and Colorado, Minnesota, and maybe a couple of others that are blue. And of those, Colorado, Minnesota, New Mexico, and Illinois being blue causes a little bit of a problem, because even if you were to make it so that you were to do a secession plan of some sort, those states being blue would not want to secede the Union, right? And this seems complicated enough already, right? This seems complicated enough already. But the reality is this. If you look at the next thing that I'm going to put up, you will see that it gets even more complicated. This is a map of essentially type of voter by county, right? And the problem with this map is that suddenly things come to be all over the place. Look, part of Washington State, part of Oregon are Republican, part of Nevada, so part of various places are Republican, part of them are Democrat, part of California, for goodness sake, is Republican, right? Looking at this map. And so the point is, And these are, by the way, 2016 maps, and I've added a little caption to show where they came from on them, right? And there, I think both of the maps are from Wikimedia, right? But the sites are listed. Brilliant Maps on one, 270 to Win on a third, and I think I've already mentioned where the little piece of the article that I cite came from, so that you can go there and get that information if you want to and review it more fully. But my point in all of this, right, looking at this map, is that if you look at the county level breakdown, parts of Texas are blue, parts of California are red, parts of Washington and Oregon are red. And I'm sure you'd find the same thing if you look at the East Coast, right? And so the point is that because of winner take all, these states ended up being red or blue, right? But in reality, they're just not. And this is one of the many problems that comes of the idea of secession, right? Is that you've got a group of places where there's a mixed populace, and you could either tell them you got to move, which, by the way, it's not really a problem, mostly because most of them are in cities already. But the point is, they're in states that would end up being red states, as it were, when they're blue, or blue states, and when they're obvious red voters. And you could make certain delineations that would make it so that you had a couple of pieces of the country. But the funny thing is, actually, if you look, and I'm sorry, I'm having to look a little off screen to see, but if you look at what's going on the East Coast, it becomes particularly complicated what's going on. So the point is, I don't know that you could ever make a solid argument for what you would do if you actually did something like seceding the union, right? I don't know that you could do that. And the reason for that is simple. It is that the way things are laid out at this point, what you're going to find is largely in counties that have large metropolitan areas in them, they will be blue. Largely for rural and suburban, probably not urban as a rule, again, they will be red. This is how this works, and it's because of a difference in values between people who tend to live in cities and people who tend to live in smaller communities. People in smaller communities tend to be much more interested in private property, gun rights, and various other things that you think of more or in different ways when you're in those areas. In cities, there are problems with gun crime and so forth, and people think that taking away guns is a way to solve that. Happens that that's not really true, because what you find out is in places like Chicago, where there aren't supposed to be guns, there are, and the problem is that they're in the hands of illegal owners, illegal holders of those guns, right? That's what you find out actually happens. So that doesn't really work. But that being said, it doesn't really matter. The point is, if you talk about the idea of secession, what you're talking about is trying to deal with the unholy mess that I just showed you with regard to how various parts of the country are divided up. And it's just not something that I think you can very easily do. I think it's even more complicated than you can imagine doing such a thing. And I think that the strife and so forth as a result would be very bad. And that's just looking at it from who lives where, right? Forget about talking about the fact that the tech sector is largely in California, right? And so a lot of tech companies would actually have to reach out to their neighboring states that were part of another union of some sort, and to get people to help them to do what they needed to do from a tech perspective, because that's not all going to be done in California, or you'd have to live in a blue area in order to be a tech worker, right? And there are many other examples like this. This is just an example. I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that it's not true for, say, for the manufacturing components of American industry. A large part of them may very well be in red states. I don't know. I can't answer. But the point that I'm making is that you can pretty much bet that you're going to see stuff like that as part of the problem. So what do I think of the idea of secession? I have a really hard time envisioning how you could do something like that. And I think this is probably where I need to wrap up my video. I've got a whole lot more I could say, but I'm afraid that I'm going to have to save it for another time. Thank you for coming aboard. Again, thank you for the folks on Rumble who are really making my day by being members of the Kurt's Religion Politics channel, and by giving me over 3,000 video views on all of my videos to this point. Again, it is Sunday, today is the 13th of December, and hopefully I will have a chance to do another video on Monday, the 14th of December of 2020, and we will hopefully see you then. I'm hoping that you're having a good day and a good start of the week, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Sunday, December the 13th of 2020. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that, and you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.